Welcome back to the Finality tutorial series. Today we're talking about getting better compression on overheads with Finality. Now, when you mic up a drum set, the snare can typically be a lot louder than the cymbals. So when you try to compress this signal, it gets really weird and it'll interact with the snare more than the cymbals. We can use Finality to essentially tame these snare hits and make them a little bit more level with the cymbals, causing more accurate compression or more favorable compression to our mixing goals. So let me show you how we can use Finality to do this technique in the next demonstration. Alright, so what I got here is a Vesta Collide track, and we recorded real drums for this song, and I'm going to show you the drum overhead as it sounds now. Cool, so one of the things that we want to do is compress the drum overheads to get more sustain out of the overall drum picture. The problem with doing that, however, is if we use the compressor now with this track the way it is, the snare is a lot louder than the rest of the elements in the whole picture of the drum set. So we're going to use Finality to tame those snare peaks so that the compressor can look at the overall drum picture and we can get a better result. So let me just start by turning on this EQ I have here, and let's turn on the compressor as well. I'm going to show you what it sounds like compressed, and here's the settings that you can look at. And we'll see how it reacts to the snare drum and the rest of the kit. So not too bad. I mean, the compression sounds good. However, it is really reacting to the snare a lot, and it's not giving me the sustain and the power that I want from the rest of the drum kit. So if you open up Finality for the first time, auto gain is turned on by default. So what that does is as you lower your threshold, it increases the output gain. And I'll show you what that sounds like real quick. So you can hear the drums get a little louder. We can turn this off, however, and lower the threshold, and we will not be increasing the gain automatically on the output, which will just only do the gain reduction. I'll show you what that sounds like too. So one really cool side effect of that is the cymbals stay the same volume. In fact, they almost stay with the exact same dynamics. So let's turn off the compression and let's just lower our threshold to tame those snare peaks until it sounds like the snare is completely almost eliminated in terms of peak value, so that we can get a more even signal to compress with. Now we can further tame the snare even more with our release setting. So the longer the release, the longer it takes for the limiter to return back to normal. So let's check that out. Somewhere around 20 sounds right to me. It makes it a little bit more even with the cymbals. So now let's compare before and after. Here's before. And after. And let me turn it on and off as we play here. So this effectively is like basically a volume knob on the snare only. It's kind of the side effect that we get there. So that's going to allow us to do some interesting things with compression. So now let's pull out our compressor, and we'll remove all the compression first. Just set the ratio to 1. Let's check it out. So yeah, that's a pretty much unity signal there. I do have a little bit of a filter on there. So let's, as we play, I'm going to increase the compression and see how it reacts. Sweet. I love the sound of that. Now let's check out what the compression would sound like if we didn't have finality on the signal, which would basically cause the compressor to react very heavily to the snare. So let's turn the finality off and see what we got. So in my opinion, the snare is way too heavily favored in that scenario. So there you have it. With Finality, we're able to essentially put a volume knob on the snare hits only and get better compression results with our drum overheads. So let me just show you what it sounds like before and after one more time. That wraps it up for this tutorial. Try that technique on your next project and let me know how it works for you. By the way, keep an eye on your inbox because in the next few days, I'm going to send you the next installment of this tutorial series where we'll be talking about making your bass cut through the mix with Finality. Until then, happy mixing.